Inside a museum in Nairobi, there lies a skeleton. It belongs to a creature that walked the earth roughly 2 million years ago. The bones are tiny, barely the size of a 10-year-old child. The skull is thin, the jaw is weak, and it has no claws, no fangs, and no armor. Scientists call it Homo habilis, one of the earliest ancestors of the human race. For decades, we believed we were always the kings of nature. But a groundbreaking study used artificial intelligence to analyze the bite patterns on those exact bones. The conclusion was deeply uncomfortable. This creature was not a predator. It was food. Those puncture wounds, they belonged to a prehistoric leopard. 2 million years ago, the ancestors of every human alive today were being hunted, killed, and eaten. We were sitting right in the middle of the food chain. The animals that shared our world did not fear us. And yet, just 50,000 years later, those exact same animals, or rather their descendants, would flee in absolute terror at the mere sound of a human voice. Creatures that had survived brutal ice ages, catastrophic volcanic eruptions, and continental drift vanished within a few thousand years of our arrival. Something changed, something dramatic. And the real question isn't what humans did. The question is, what did it feel like from the other side? What signal did early animals receive, and how did that signal evolve into the most terrifying force in the history of life on Earth? To understand how terrifying we became, we have to look at the world we came from. 2.5 million years ago, Africa was a living nightmare. Hyenas grew to the size of grizzly bears. Sabre-toothed cats roamed alongside lions. Crocodiles excelled in every river, and eagles large enough to carry infant primates circled overhead. Anthropologists note that predators in the Pleistocene era were 10 times more numerous than they are today, and significantly larger. Early humans were not apex predators navigating a peaceful landscape. We were small-bodied, tree-sleeping primates doing our absolute best not to get killed. To a lion, a hyena, or an eagle, Homo habilis looked like an easy meal. We had a brain half the size of yours. We walked upright, which freed our hands, but it also made us slower than almost any four-legged animal and highly visible in the tall grass. But the first thing animals noticed about us wasn't how dangerous we were. It was how strange we looked. Animals move in predictable ways. They either sprint to flee or they climb to hide. Early humans did neither. They walked steadily, persistently, in a slightly awkward, upright shuffle that no other animal had ever evolved before. To a predator calibrated over millions of years to read the body language of prey, this was deeply confusing. The creature didn't run when it should. It didn't climb when it should. It just kept moving. For the first few 100,000 years, this confusion was harmless. Hominins were firmly on the menu. But then, everything shifted. A study published in Nature Human Behavior reviewed over 8,000 historical documents and found hundreds of cases of what biologists call persistence hunting. Humans didn't hunt with a short, explosive sprint like a cheetah. We hunted by chasing prey for hours, across vast distances in the blistering heat. How? Because humans possess a secret weapon that most mammals don't. We sweat. Most mammals cool themselves by panting, which forces them to stop running. Humans can run and cool down at the same time. Imagine a massive kudu antelope under a 40-degree sun. On any given day, it can easily outrun a human. For the first few miles, the antelope clears the gap without difficulty. But by hour 3, with no shade in sight, the animal looks back. And there it is. That strange two-legged creature is still coming. It's not panicking, it's not sprinting recklessly, it's just jogging, trotting, tracking, showing a complete indifference to distance. The antelope's legs begin to fail. Its body temperature reaches critical limits. It cannot stop to rest because the monster behind it never stops. When the animal finally collapses from pure exhaustion, the human calmly walks up to finish the job. No other predator on Earth hunted this way. Lions sprint and give up. Cheetahs run for seconds and rest for half an hour. The animals of the savannah had evolved escape strategies for every predator in their world. But none of those strategies worked against a creature that simply refused to stop following. As humans evolved, our anatomy changed. Anthropologists discovered that the human shoulder evolved to act exactly like a sling. As your arm cocks back, the tendons and ligaments store elastic energy like a rubber band. When released, it powers the fastest motion the human body can produce, a high-speed thrown object. Chimpanzees are structurally stronger than humans, yet they cannot throw with any real speed or accuracy. But around 2 million years ago, Homo erectus stepped into the evolutionary arena. Alongside their fossils, archaeologists found sharpened wooden spears. For the first time in history, a predator had emerged that could cause death from a distance, before it was close enough to fight, before it was close enough to see clearly. A zebra's safety model was simple. Distance equals survival. If the lion is far away, I am safe. Because every predator before humans had to close the gap to kill. But the spear changed the laws of physics. An athlete throwing a heavy prehistoric spear can maintain fatal accuracy at 50 meters, half the length of a football field. A wildebeest standing at that distance, believing it was perfectly safe by every evolutionary rule it had ever known, suddenly felt agony strike before the predator even arrived. And then we stole fire. About 1 million years ago, humans began controlling fire. For every large predator, fire violated a rule that had held true for hundreds of millions of years. Darkness belongs to the nocturnal hunters. Night was the great equalizer, the time when ambush predators had the ultimate advantage. Then, one species manufactured light. A pride of lions settling in for a night hunt, only to find their landscape suddenly lit by an artificial star, had zero evolutionary response to this. Fire didn't extinguish in the rain. It moved, it grew, and it smelled like pure danger. Research found that ancient fire sites were littered with the bones of massive elephants and hippos. Humans weren't even cooking them. They were using roaring fires to keep lions and hyenas away from their kills. The animal kingdom was learning a terrifying new lesson. This upright ape controls the uncontrollable. When you combine a creature that walks strangely, ignores boundaries, controls fire, and kills from a distance, you get a psychological phenomenon that scientists call the landscape of fear. The mere knowledge that this predator exists completely rewires the behavior of every animal in the ecosystem. A study documented something shocking. Impalas, deer, badgers, and mountain lions all respond to the sound of a calm human conversation with significantly more fear than they do to the roars of their actual natural predators. Not a shout, not a weapon, just two humans talking quietly is enough to trigger a panic response in wildlife. Because of us, land mammals across the globe have fundamentally altered their lives. They have become overwhelmingly nocturnal, shifting their activity to the deepest hours of the night just to avoid our presence. When the global lockdowns emptied public spaces, wildlife behavior reversed within weeks. Animals returned to areas they had abandoned for decades. This fear isn't just a learned habit. It is encoded deeply into their nervous systems. It is an instinct built generation by generation over tens of thousands of years. The animals that underestimated the upright ape became bones with cut marks. The ones that feared us survived. But our final, most devastating advantage wasn't physical, it was informational. Animals remember individually, like a crow remembering a human face that threatened its nest. But humans remember collectively, across generations, through language. A hunting party that found a mammoth watering hole could describe it, name it, and pass that knowledge down to children who weren't even born yet. Humans could return to the exact same river crossing every single spring because of a story told by their grandfathers. The animals, returning to that same river crossing by pure seasonal instinct, arrived year after year to find the exact same trap waiting for them. The gap between how fast humans accumulated knowledge and how fast animals could evolve a response is one of the widest asymmetries in evolutionary history. A human tribe could master a prey's weakness in a single lifetime. An animal population needed centuries of death and natural selection to pass down a defensive trait. When early humans left Africa, they entered pristine ecosystems that had absolutely zero experience with us. 50,000 years ago, the Earth was dominated by mega herbivores, animals weighing over a metric ton. Ground sloths as tall as cars, giant wombats the size of rhinoceroses, elephant birds laying eggs the volume of 140 chickens, and millions of woolly mammoths. Within a few thousand years of human arrival, almost all of them vanished. Global analyses concluded that the timing of these mass extinctions orbits directly with the arrival of humans, not climate change. Massive animals like mammoths reproduce slowly, one calf every 4 to 5 years. A population hunted by coordinated human tribes using fire and spears was wiped out faster than it could replenish itself. On a remote Arctic piece of land called Wrangel Island, woolly mammoths actually survived until just 4,000 years ago, long after the pyramids were built. Why did they survive there? Because humans hadn't reached the island. The moment humans finally stepped onto Wrangel Island, the mammoths went extinct. They met the upright ape for the first time with no accumulated fear, no learned avoidance. The encounter lasted only as long as the mammoth's final generation. The modern natural world is a product of this ancient terror. The crow watching your face, the elephant steering clear of human villages, the deer feeding only at twilight. They are all expressing a trauma written into their DNA over thousands of years. The animals alive today are the descendants of the ones that hid, the ones that ran, the ones that panicked. The ones that didn't run left no descendants to pass down the lesson. What remains is something stranger than triumph. The entire animal kingdom paid an unimaginable price to figure out how to live alongside the most unpredictable, relentless predator to ever walk the earth. The only question left is whether we, the apex predators, have learned an equivalent lesson about ourselves. Do we understand what happens when we arrive somewhere new, when the creatures there have no reason yet to be afraid? The mammoths on Wrangel Island had thousands of years of peace, protected by nothing but geographic isolation. But isolation always ends, and they never do, at first, know to be afraid.